Good morning, everybody. Let's get started. So today's session is all about re-engagement. We we held this session just last week with a group of members or group of user group folks, and we had a really interesting discussion, just looking at ways to be able to dig down into the database and really try and identify and understand who those less engaged contacts are. So the conversation did head in two different ways, which was interesting. One was, first of all, getting clarity around those who are simply not engaged, those who are not getting picked up in campaigns, those who are not part of the current range of campaigns that you're running, versus those, who are less engaged. So those people who may be picking up a little bit of this, or they might be visiting a little bit of the website and falling into the odd campaign, but those people who are less engaged. So as we work throughout this morning session, we'll have a look and try and figure out the difference between those two groups and how you can identify them effectively. First thing we want to look at is really trying to understand a strategy of how to reach into that pool of less engaged contacts and really trying to be able to uncover who they are, both at an individual level, but potentially also as a segment within your database overall. We'll then look at the segment tool within Eloqua and understand how we can use segments to really help us uncover those less active or even inactive contacts, and then potentially look at a couple of multi-step campaign canvases to get a feel for some strategy and different ways that we could use the campaign canvas in order to try and get these people engaged a bit further. So let's get started. So the question really becomes then, who are we reaching? And this goes back to the point I made there a moment ago, that we really need to try and figure out who is the group. Is the group those who are completely inactive? So this is a group of people within the database who are not doing anything. They're not being sent anything. They're not visiting the website. They still haven't unsubscribed. You're still able to communicate with them, but for some reason they're just not getting picked up. So perhaps we call those people inactive, and then potentially we call the other group less active. So that's the group who, as I said, maybe are getting picked up occasionally in campaigns, may come to the website every now and then, but overall their behavior is kind of limited, and so we can call them less active potentially. To help get your headspace in this area about focusing on this group, we randomly had a look at 4 different Eloqua customers, and we sliced some data within segments using a common baseline across all of them to get the following results. What you're able to see here is 4 different Eloqua customers, each with a range of contacts, varying significantly, as you can see there. And then what we've done is we applied a segment that excluded all hard bounces and any globally unsubscribed contacts, which, as I said in the footnote, there's no reason why these people can't be emailed, generally speaking, but who have not been sent any email in the past 6 months. So here's a group of people that are just constantly getting missed as you're going through the process of executing and building your campaigns. So you can see it really differs there quite significantly in relation to the size of the group of people that have not been sent an email in the past 6 months. Now, why did I choose 6 months? Look, I just chose 6 months because I needed a baseline. And there'll be all sorts of other factors here as well involved in these particular numbers. There could be email group level unsubscriptions. There could be a whole range of different things. While these contacts may not have hard bounced or globally unsubscribed, perhaps they're no longer utilizing your services. So that may be why you're not emailing them. There could be a whole range of reasons. But what I wanted to try and show here was just to give you some insight into the fact that just about everybody, as in Eloqua users, people just like yourself, there is a cohort of people sitting generally at the bottom of the database that are just not getting picked up on a range of campaigns. And so this is one of the easy ways that you're able to identify who they are. Now, the other point that we probably need to talk about is this concept of marketing and data is a love affair. So much so that in November 2014, I wrote a blog post talking to that very point, and just sort of articulating that, in today's world, marketers need to understand data, not at a complex level, but certainly at a basic level. And if there's integration with CRM platforms or other platforms, the marketer needs to understand the construct of that data and the relationship of that data to Eloqua and specifically to the contact. only when we can really appreciate the data and the way it sits within the various systems and how we're able to slice and dice that data, and as I said, its relationship to the contact, only then can we really start to take advantage of that integration, or even if it's via Excel for the time being, understanding the relationship of those two things. So you'll find that blog post on our website. If you just go to blog and do a keyword search on the word love, you'll find it. It's the only one, I think, that mentions the word love. So as we start to figure out who these constituents are, we need to start looking in and around our various systems and platforms to uncover the right people that we want to potentially target. For the purposes of today's webinar, what we'll probably do is focus on those people who are inactive. So these are the people who are just not doing anything. They're not engaged in any way. So we'll work through and come to a decision and see what we get to. So the first thing is we need to understand what the source of truth is. So in order for your organization to uncover these people, there's two ways of being able to understand inactivity. Eloqua is probably the best indicator of understanding activity or lack of activity because of the digital body language that you're able to uncover. However, some of you, where there's integration with a CRM system, you may have a construct which is called inactive, which is usually a tick box. And some of the CRM platforms have this as an out-of-the-box construct, the idea being that when somebody leaves an organization, if you don't know where they're going, you might just tick the box inactive. And that just enables you then to exclude that particular person from communications. Probably the bad way to do that, a not so best practice way to do that, is simply to flag those people that leave organizations as globally unsubscribed. Now, that's really not a good idea because that then really distorts statistically your performance as digital marketers. You're then returning information and reports to management that show a disproportionate number who are globally unsubscribing from your communications. And that's in fact not what they're doing. They simply left the organization. So an inactive tick of some sort at the contact level is a great idea because you can easily integrate that with Eloqua and you can exclude it just as you would exclude globally unsubscribed or hard bounces, for instance, or even email group level unsubscribes within Eloqua. So source of truth, what is it? It can be lots of different things. Probably one of the more common sources of truth for our range of customers here in Australia and New Zealand would be probably the CRM, and that would fluctuate between Oracle Sales Cloud, Salesforce from salesforce.com, NetSuite, and a range of other platforms. Sugar CRM, I think we have a couple of customers with Sugar. Regardless of what that CRM platform is, it can be really integrated. Well, integration is only one. It's one option. Excel spreadsheets, as I say, there is often confused as integration, but Excel spreadsheets is not integration. Excel spreadsheets is slow and cumbersome and prone to error. So through the integration, you've got the ability to now automatically build segments based on current and up-to-date information within the CRM. The downside, of course, with Excel is your information is only as up-to-date as the last upload. And depending on the frequency of that, it could be once a week, it could be once a day, whatever the case may be. But it really limits your ability to do live access to information using shared filters, for instance. You're only relying on the information that you've got sitting within Eloqua. So they're the two options pretty much. It's either integration with the CRM platform or you're manually uploading Excel spreadsheets. If you have an ERP platform, some customers have Eloqua going directly to an ERP. Some might have it also going to multiple sources. So Eloqua is quite strong in its ability to communicate with additional platforms and systems, and the range of options is quite significant. We find from a best practice point of view, it's often best to have that data come through the CRM and then into Eloqua. It's more about sanity, I think, for the marketer to easily understand the information that's coming in. If they're familiar with the CRM platform, it makes it much easier to then be able to segment the data. If you're going straight into an ERP platform, for instance, not many marketers typically would use an ERP platform, It's more a back office type of platform. And so then the marketer is not as familiar with the data structure. And so it can just be a little bit more difficult. Anything can be learned, of course. But yeah, just another way to look at it. So there are a range of ways that data can come into Eloqua. But as I said, with most of our customers, it'll be through the CRM. And probably a good proportion of our customers would actually have that integrated as in a real integration, not just simply Excel spreadsheets. So once you understand your source of truth, it's then a matter of understanding how you can bring that information in and then actually do something with it. Now, the key thing to understand here from trying to understand who the inactive group are or the less active group are is the ability to look at both profile data and also engagement data. So profile will be all of those things that typically sit on the contact within Salesforce or Oracle Sales Cloud or whichever. And it's going to be things like job title, job category, their address, so state, those sorts of things, their relationship to the account or company, their employer, for instance, that relationship would be there. And then potentially also any relationships to opportunities that may be in play as well, and potentially also through to service ticketing. So if you're running a service module through the CRM, whether it be something like cases or service requests, that sort of stuff, all of that information can be exposed and be available to the Eloqua user from an integration point of view. The other side of that coin is the digital side, so the digital body language side. So profile from the CRM, then we can overlay that information with the digital body language. So that's where we, at the very basic level, as you saw with that information that I shared previously on that table, all we did there was really apply a filter about sent emails and those customers who have not been sent an email. And arguably, that's not really even their digital body language. That's our lack of sending them something. But you can take it a step further, of course, and then look at those customers who perhaps have not opened any email within the last 6 months. You certainly want to make sure you clarify that in your filter to say that they were sent something, etc., but did not open it. And then you can go further with form submissions. Click-throughs is probably a stronger indicator, etc. And you can do all of those in the negative, but we'll have a look at those in a moment so you can see the actual build process within Eloqua. So understanding the activity of an individual really comes in two parts. It's the profile, typically information from the CRM, and the digital body language, which is what's captured within Eloqua as part of the contact and all of their engagement data that you see. Segments are a lot of fun. You can do some really interesting things within segments. If you're simply uploading an Excel file into segments and doing nothing else but simply attach that segment to a canvas, well, there's a lot more that could be happening there. And what we're going to do here is try and show you some of that information. Because in that experience or in that scenario that I just described, if you're simply uploading an Excel spreadsheet into a segment and then dropping it straight onto a canvas, you're missing an opportunity to actually uncover or understand any of that digital body language. So let's have a look and see how we can do that. Let's go to segment. And here's one I prepared earlier, less engaged contacts. So in order for us to run our segments, we're integrated with our CRM platform, with Sales Cloud. And what we do is we typically go, let me take you back a step actually. We go to segments, we click on create a segment where we access a template. And so we have what we call a base segment. And many of you will have the same thing because we've created it for you to give you a leg up when you start. But the base segment is kind of that base point. So it has in it already a whole range of exclusions. So you can see we've got exclusions here of our inactive contacts as flagged in the CRM system. You can see we've also got unsubscribes, our global unsubscribes there as well, and they're excluded from that segment. Any hard bounces, same thing, excluded. There are a few account types that we want to exclude typically in most of our communications. And you'll see that things like competitors, vendors, partner contact. A partner contact in our world means It's a contact that we've done a joint campaign with a partner, and so we flag that particular contact as what we call a partner contact. And so we only communicate with that particular person in the context of whoever provided the information, the business partner at the time. And we do a number of joint campaigns with Oracle, and so again, we have some contacts of theirs in our system, and so again, we exclude those. So let me go back and show you our less engaged contacts. So that's where templates become really helpful, and we keep talking about templates, I think, every user group meeting. But okay, so you can see here what I've got is this is now refreshed, and actually it's 5 days ago. Let's hit save, see what happens. Saw the hard bounces, unsubscribes, etc., inactive, etc. You can see how big the inactive group is there. You can see, I mean, our little old world of Marketing Cube, we're looking at 1,300 people. So that's a significant chunk of people who have left an organization. Now, if they had simply been flagged as global unsubscribes, you can see how statistically that would really make a difference and an impact to what could be perceived as a problem within the organization. Okay, so what we've done is we're looking at, first of all, understanding prospects. So in our world, we call those, we have account types, both at the account and contact level. And so we've identified prospects. So first of all, we want to have a look at prospects, and we're saying either at the account or contact level. We've then grouped those. So the way you group them is to click on one of them, then hold down your Shift key, click on the other. And when you do that, the group icon at the bottom of the screen, or the button, I should say, highlights. And so that's how you group them together. Then I'm saying, and sent in the email. Actually, I swapped this one around. This was, sorry, let me, oh yeah, here we go. Sorry, no, rephrase. So sent any email at least 5 times within the last 6 months and not opened any email within the last 6 months. So here I'm just wanting to make very clear of these prospects that we have in fact sent them an email, but they've not opened any of those emails. And contacts who have, and that's right, I'll delete that one because I was playing around with this the other day. So let's hit save and see what happens with this one. Okay, 374 contacts. So essentially what I have is a list of 374 prospects specifically who we have actually sent emails to but have not opened any of those emails. So this is, I suppose, the less engaged. Now, in order to play around with this, because I'm happy to leave that as it is, I don't want to really adjust it, what about if I go over here and try save as, and this one, let me just find where I've got that saved so I can pop it in the right folder. So that's the less engaged group. Okay, it's in the main directory. So we'll call this one Inactive Contacts. Okay, so to uncover the inactive contacts, instead of having to restart that whole process, all I need to do now is come in here and say it's prospects I want to focus on, and I'll get rid of both of those. I'll get rid of both of those because what I'm trying to find now is a group of contacts that we've not actually sent anything to. It's all about us in this instance. So not sent any emails, there we go, and not sent any emails within the last, and again, just for the sake of the exercise, we'll say last 6 months. And I'll make sure I actually save that. Okay. So this is the inactive. Okay. So little old Marketing Cube. Now you need to understand our database is around 8,000 contacts. So of our 8,000 contacts, in the last 6 months, there's 681 contacts sitting, as I say, in the bottom of the barrel, in the bottom of our contact list, and that we're just not communicating with for some reason. So Tim's on the line. Tim, we'll have to focus on that group and find out why it is we're not actually communicating with them in some way. And specifically, they are contacts. sorry, they are prospects, I should say, in our world. So that's a really simple way to start exploring. Now, you can, if you want to take a snapshot, you could do a save as I just described, and we moved over here and made this one inactive. But let's go ahead and have a look at some other filtering options that might give us a bit of an idea, perhaps, as to these less active contacts. So I'll go back to segments and look at my less engaged contacts. And let's have a look. We've got, they've been sent any email but not opened any email. I wonder, in relation to website visits, that can be another way to look at this information. So I might add that as a separate filter. And we'll call it web visits. And we'll look at visited any landing page, visited microsites, or visited websites. Actually, not microsites. Okay, so when you double click on visited websites, you basically are exposed here to every single page that you've got available. So there'll be a few ways to do that, right? So you can go through and find some of your key pages. So we have, for instance, the option here around our customer success type of stuff. We've got, let's have a look. The easy way to do it is you need to generally type in the full URL. And so we would go marketingcube.com.au. So now I'm looking at our actual website, and generally the first lot of stuff that comes up will be our blog, and it is typically in order. But let's get the home page at least and add that. This one here is actually a subdomain, so that's an Eloqua landing page. So I'm just going to remove that one because I want to focus on the website. So again, typing in the full URL as you go through this process, and Eloqua sees your website as a website. I know that sounds really obvious, but you'll notice on the right-hand side there's a few options there for websites, microsites, landing pages. Oops, I missed my little slashes. Hang on just a minute. Okay, so all the blogs would appear in our world. You could then identify other pages that you feel are relevant. The blog for us would probably be a good one. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to say at least one time within the last, we'll take 6 months again. And the home page and the blog are the two main pages that I figure people would probably visit at some point. I'll get rid of that. Now, landing pages. So landing pages, we're talking specifically in relation to a time frame. So because we're saying visited any landing page, we don't have the option to identify which one, but we can put in a different filter, which gives us some ability to choose a specific landing page, should we want to. 6 months. Make that an or. And then we probably should just clarify that again by making sure in our world that these are in fact prospects. We want to keep the data the same effectively. We don't want to mix it up, so to speak. Okay, and this is a good idea to group. So we want to look at prospects and have visited any landing page or the home page or the blog. So if I group those together and hit save. So we're at 374 contacts right now. Okay, so we've gone to 510. So 157 people fall into that group. Now, the process or the tip I'd give you here is you go through the process of building segments like this and start to play with the digital body language and sort of try and get a feel for what's going on. As you add filters, hit save each time, because if you go ahead and put in a whole range of filter criteria in the center of the screen, then hit save, you've no idea how the number has got to how it's got. And by number, I'm referring to this one here, the 510 contacts, for instance. you've no idea how it got there. So hitting save each time just generally makes it a little bit easier for you to get a feel for how that number has come about. Once we start to play on the campaign canvas, we can then take some of this filtering criteria that we apply in segments for the beginning stages of our campaign. Then with using shared filters, we can then actually apply that same logic while the campaign is live. Now, if you're simply putting a single segment onto a canvas and sending an email, game over. However, if you're building nurturing campaigns and your strategy is to look at a longer-term engagement, the fact would be that the profile of a particular individual could in fact change over time. And so you want to make sure you keep that up to date. It's like when you get an electricity bill in the mail, for instance, and or if you still get them in the mail, that is, not by email. But it typically will say something like, say if it's an overdue notice, it'll say, if you've paid this within the last 14 days, please disregard this notice. Well, in the world of digital, 14 days is way too long, and it's not forgivable to not be up to date if something happened 14 days ago. So by using shared filters, what you can do is you can check specific information about a contact prior to an email being sent. And that could be anything. It could be about their job category. It could be about their industry. It could be in relation to if they're a customer. It may be in relation to, is there any open service ticket right now with this particular person? If it is, perhaps we don't want to communicate with them in this campaign. We'll just leave service to help them, etc. There's a whole range of things, and we'll have a look at those in just a moment. Okay, so shared filters. So the easiest way to talk about shared filters is to describe them as really segmentation on the fly and while the campaign is active. And so that effectively is that description that I just gave you a moment ago. So a shared filter, the interface in order to build a shared filter is pretty much the same. From there, you can ask questions. Typically, the place that you'd want to ask them is just prior to sending an email. And so you can use the compare contact object on the canvas, or we can use shared filters to do that, depending on exactly what it is you're wanting to check against, etc. But let's have a look at the interface so you can get a feel for what that might look like. So here's a shared filter. This particular shared filter is looking at the date created field of the Eloqua contact and is specifically asking, has the contact been created within the last 2 hours? And so there's a whole range of applications, I suppose, for that information in relation to recency and et cetera. And maybe it's not 2 hours. Maybe it's somebody, a contact that's been created within the last 2 weeks or last 7 days or whatever the case may be. But the time, the ability to understand and filter information based on time can be quite helpful. And so in that case, you really need a date field in order to facilitate that process. Other ways to look at it, what we wanted to try and do with this particular shared filter was in the context of a campaign when we have some new clients coming on board, we invite them to participate in a short sort of self-tutorial where there's a range of videos for them to look at, and that's all part of what we call Marketing Cube College. And so there are some specific landing pages that we would hope that they would take a chance to have a look at. And so in order for us to understand in the throes of the campaign whether they have or have not, we've created a specific a shared filter with very specific landing pages in it. And so what we're able to do there is we send out the invitation to people, invite them to register to Marketing Cube College, and then share with them a range of links to have a look at various landing pages. Then we leave them for a few days, and then we come back and we use the shared filter to check to see if they've actually looked at any of those pages. It's a little bit big brotherish, I suppose, isn't it? But we all do it, and we're digital marketers. And so that then enables us to control the communication flow. So for those people who have looked at least one of those pages, because we just need to see that some proactivity, if they looked at least one, we'll send them an email, sort of saying, hey, look, looks like you've made a little bit of progress. That's fantastic. Here's the links again for some other pages you may want to look at, et cetera, et cetera. And then for the person that hasn't done anything just yet, we send to a nice email saying, looks like you're pretty busy. Here's the links again. taking you directly to those various pages, etc., etc. So it enables you to have a very specific conversation with people by applying that filter literally moments before you actually send out the next communication. It's about on-time communications that are relevant and timely to that particular individual. And so if that's what you're trying to do, a shared filters is definitely the way to do it. Okay, so how does that play out on the campaign canvas? Here's an example. And this particular step that you can see on screen is in fact that filter that I was just using. So that step right there that you can see, I'll just color it in. So the shared filter. So you can see people coming in at the top, and then depending on their activity or lack of activity, we then send them, you can see there, I think we called it registered but viewed no videos, and progress completion encouragement. Is that lovely? So that just helps us get people moving, I suppose, and just encouraging them. Plus it gives them another email with those links to the resources. So for any reason they've misplaced the original email or they can't find it, it just gives them that information again quite easily. So let's have a look at the campaign canvas and how that might work. Alrighty, so if we go to a blank campaign to start with, and now most of you, actually I think nearly all of you, should have the new campaign canvas look and feel. So first thing you'll notice is when you come in, it's a little bit different in its look. You can shrink it right the way back, which is kind of nice. It just gives you a little bit more screen real estate to play with. So you can click on the little double chevron right there. If you like the visual nature of this being a little bit more separated, you can click on that chevron. And again, that gives you a little bit more real estate there, I suppose, to view the various stages. And if you're new to Eloqua, it's probably a good idea to do that so you don't get confused on what those different steps do. So if we look at the campaign, perhaps we have segments. We might have a particular email, so that's sort of your first one that is sent to people. Now the usual step would be, after we've sent an email, would be to wait for a period of time. And then once you've waited for a period of time, and let's put in here, we'll just say 7 days for fun, now we have an opportunity to do a few things. We can use the shared filter construct. So we access a shared filter from the decision menu here on the left-hand side of the canvas. So we drop a shared filter. And when you access the filter, you can use the drop-down menu here, and now depending on the filter you've built, if the filter is for a campaign, I'd encourage you to name it specifically so it suits the campaign. So many of you will use this date construct for your campaigns. I encourage you to apply that to your filter. However, you may also have other filters that are more generic. Let me show you some examples. So we created some shared filters that talk to email frequency. And so we've got things here, for instance, somebody who has been sent more than 3 emails in the past 7 days, or sent 3 emails in the past 30 days, sent more than 10 emails in the past 7 days, or sent more than 5 emails in the past 7 days. So let's maybe choose this one, sent more than 3 emails in the past 7 days. And so we can drop that in. So the ability to do this on the fly just really makes your ability to personalize the campaign that much greater. And if I just grab that other email. And so your campaign would then look something like this. Now, if someone has not been sent more than 3 emails in the past 7 days, you may then send them off in this direction. However, if they have been sent more than 3 emails in the past 7 days, and you may have a contact policy that sounds something like that, then what you could do is a few things. You could, in place of the wait step, you could use the evaluation period. So if we're saying in the past 7 days, maybe change that to 7 or actually 14 days. If we did that, I would probably lose. Would I just hang on a minute? No, I'm going to leave that there. Wait for a week, bring that in, and then eventually, once someone has met the criteria, send them that particular communication. Now, what you'll have, of course, is a break in the flow, so people will start to move at different paces. And so the other thing you need to be mindful of, which is now located over here, by the way, in your campaign settings, is the start and end date of your campaign. I would always encourage you to utilize the custom on this option and not any of these defaults. I'd really encourage you to focus on using a custom end date. So this one we've said we're evaluating for 2 weeks, plus we've got a 1 week wait here, so it's 3 weeks. So we need to look at applying an end date that makes sense in that context. So it's 1, 2, 3, maybe somewhere around Friday the 16th. There we go. And so again, the information you can see here is now available through this little menu, campaign settings menu on the right-hand side of the campaign canvas. Okay, close that. Okay, so that's one application of a shared filter on the campaign canvas. As you saw, though, there can be a whole range of shared filters, whether they be in specific context of a campaign that you're running or potentially frequency-style updates. We can also use them from, excuse me, in relation to account type. Another way you can do that is to work with compare contact fields. So compare contact fields really behaves in a very similar way to a shared filter. And so these, if you look at these all are all basically the fields from your contact within your instance of Eloqua. And so that can be quite helpful again. You can also compare custom object fields. So if you have, for instance, the opportunity object from your CRM talking to Eloqua, you can access that information here directly from the canvas. No need to build filters for that one because they're basically pre-built here for you with utilizing these compare contact and compare custom object fields. These, again, as I said, can be very helpful in delivering a very specific scenario or experience to people based on the most current and up-to-date information that you have about them. Another common application for shared filters on the campaign canvas comes in relation to the website, because what we need to understand is this particular step on the campaign canvas, which says visited website with a question mark, the question that it's asking is, has the contact visited any digital website that you have the Eloqua tracking code on? So you'll notice when you get here, there's no ability for you to actually identify specific pages on your website. So this is just a very generic question of have they visited any of your digital properties? And so if the answer is yes, that's great. They can head off in different directions. But this is just a very general indication of engagement through visiting some of your sites. If you wanted to be more specific, then yes, that's where you would need to utilize a shared filter and a little bit like perhaps the one I did earlier in relation to the what we call the pre-work for the landing pages that we offer as part of the initial training program. Probably prudent, just to give you an idea, folks, I swear when I logged in yesterday, our Eloqua didn't look like this. It has changed overnight, which is fantastic. I was expecting it to happen this weekend, so I'm not sure why necessarily it's happened overnight. But most of you, if not all of you, will have the new look and feel on the campaign canvas at least by this weekend. So at the absolute latest, when you arrive at work Monday next week, you should see this type of experience. If you've got any questions at all about this new look and feel, please let us know. Happy to walk you through that and just give you a little bit of a breakdown. You'll notice now too, which is kind of nice, any of the apps that you've got added are actually just included in the action steps. Before you had a little menu you had to click and then it would open out and pop out over here, for instance. The fact that they're all right here now is, I think, much easier. So we've got our SMS function available there. Something I noticed also, which Tim has been working on, is this new Facebook lead ads feeder. So if you're doing advertising on Facebook and you'd like to drive some of that traffic potentially into Eloqua from an email point of view, you should have a look at that particular app. If you've got questions, just shoot an email through to Tim. He'd be happy to walk you through that. If we get enough interest, Tim, perhaps we should maybe do a short webinar to introduce people to that particular feature. We don't have a massive presence on Facebook, so we have a campaign running at the moment, but really don't have it's not really where our audience hangs out. And so we're not really having, well, let's just say we're not flooded with leads from Facebook at the moment. But certainly if I just quickly have a look at who's with us today. Let's have a look. Yeah, Nick. Nick, that could be something that you potentially want to look at. I can imagine you'd have good engagement potentially through Facebook, Vera potentially. I'm not sure if you'd get too many people on Facebook necessarily. Perhaps more the other side of the business, not so much the publishing. But yes, if Facebook is reasonably a reasonable space for you that you get traffic to and you'd like to convert that traffic, you may find the ability to utilize that particular feature quite handy. Now, just so we're clear, it doesn't work. It doesn't. Sorry, let me rephrase. It's an app for Eloqua. It's not to do with the Oracle Social Relationship Management product. So you've got you can absolutely download and access that information there, and you can find it on the App Store. So that's easy enough. All right. I'll see what we got here. Sorry, I'll be back on your screen in just a moment. All right, guys. Well, if there's no questions, perhaps we should wrap up and give you a little bit of an early mark. We're just on 10 to 11, so finished 10 minutes early. As you know, all of these sessions are recorded. They're available on our YouTube channel, and we'll get them up there as quickly as possible. Hopefully you enjoyed today's session. Today's session was a little bit different. It wasn't so much about a user exercise. It was a little bit more around strategy and trying to understand how we can dig into the data and uncover specific audiences. And you can imagine with those filters that you've got available, there's a whole range of different things that you could uncover. If you wanted to talk further about anything that we've discussed today here in the user group, please shoot an email through or give us a call, and happy to have that discussion with you. But thank you so much for your participation, and we'll see you next month for the user group. Thanks so much, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.